Welcome back. We are learning about the sine and cosine in quadrant 1 along with our axes. So the main points from the previous video, if you're just joining us, was that we talked about this circle, and this circle with a radius of 1. And the circle with a radius of 1 had either a reference angle of 45 degrees, so we found that the cosine of 45 degrees was root 2 over 2, and the sine of 45 degrees was also root 2 over 2. Then, in our next circle with a radius of 1, with a reference angle of 30, we found out that the cosine of 30 degrees was root 3 over 2, and the sine of 30 degrees was 1/2. And then finally, in our last circle with a radius of 1, we had a reference angle of 60, and we talked about how the cosine of 60 degrees we found is 1/2, and the sine of 60 degrees is root 3 over 2. This leads us to the unit circle. The unit circle is all about trig. We're going to be doing sine, cosine, tangent, and then you're going to be learning about these other words, secant, cosecant, cotangent. The unit circle is a circle with a radius of 1. Each ordered pair x, y represents the cosine and sine values of an angle, written as cosine theta, sine theta. And theta we're going to be inputting with numbers like 0 degrees, 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, and so forth. So in relation to the entire graph, a unit circle, since it only has a radius of 1, it only really exists in this part of our graph. Now if you notice, in different parts of the graph, we have these intersections. Perfect intersections with our grid. And so these perfect intersections, we can attach an xy coordinate. At this first one, we have 1, 0. This one above here, we have 0, 1. This one over here, we have this coordinate -1, 0. And then down below, we have another coordinate of 0, -1. And these ordered pairs go along with the unit circle because the radius of 1. Now, the unit circle is our shortcut to figuring out the degree measures of different angles within this unit circle that you'll see as we continue on over the next 4 weeks. So in the actual circle, the axes are defined as we have 0, which happens to be also 360 degrees, 90, 180, and 270. Angles are always measured from our 0-degree reference. So my 0-degree reference is going to always start right here. This will be 0 degrees. Now, as we did above, my ordered pair was 1, 0. So at 0 degrees, we have our ordered pair of 1, 0. And then we're going to go up. Above, right here, we just went up 90 degrees. My ordered pair is 0, 1. Let's keep going in a circle. So now we're at 180 degrees, 0, 90, 180. So we have -1, 0, just like we did on our grid. Keep going around in a circle. So we're at 270 degrees. So we're at 0, -1. And then finally, we end up at 360 degrees, which is 1, 0. Now, like we said above, it goes cosine, sine. Cosine goes with our x, sine goes with our y, if you're thinking about an ordered pair. You can just remember the alphabet. C comes before S, therefore cosine comes before sine, just like x comes before y in the alphabet. Now our shortcut to figuring out the sine and cosine of all these different degree measures has to do with these ordered pairs that we came up with. So if we were to write down the sine of 180 degrees, I'm going to look up here, and I know that 180 degrees has this ordered pair of -1, 0. So rather than going through an entire triangle, I'm going to write down -1, 0. And then because it's cosine, sine, I know that my answer is going to be 0 because sine is second, 0 is second. So therefore my answer is 0. It's not 0 degrees. The answer is just 0. The next one, cosine of 270 degrees. 270 is right here. So I'm going to write down my ordered pair, 0, -1. Cosine, that comes first. So therefore my answer is 0. Again, it's not 0 degrees. The answer is just 0. For number 3, we have cosine of 90 degrees. 90 is all the way up here. So I'm going to write down my ordered pair, 0, 1. Cosine is the very first one. So therefore my answer is 0. Sine of 270 degrees. 270 degrees is right here. So I'm going to write down my ordered pair, 0, -1. Sine is second. So therefore my answer is -1. Next one, we have cosine of 360 degrees. So I'm going to write down my ordered pair, 1, 0, and therefore my answer is equal to 1. Now I would say go ahead and try out these next 5 on your own, and I'm going to go ahead and put the answer key in OneNote so that you can check your answers. I would start to work on memorizing these 4 axes and knowing what those ordered pairs are. It's really important that you know what those ordered pairs are in order to find the sine and cosine of the different measures. Now down below, we're going to go ahead and start by placing my degree measures of the axes that we just learned into this picture. So this is the entire unit circle. It looks pretty big and it looks like it's a lot to memorize, but there are so many different tricks that you guys will learn and I will show you, especially in this next video that I'm going to explain. So we have 0 degrees, and we learned that 0 degrees was an ordered pair of 1, 0. Then we go above, 90 degrees. We learned that 90 degrees is an ordered pair of 0, 1, just like on a regular grid. So we keep going over, we have 180 degrees. So we're at -1, 0. Down below, we have 270 degrees, 0, -1. And then we end up back at 360 degrees. Now, when our radius was 1, just like all of these are, that means that from the center to the outside of the circle is only a unit of 1. I'm going to go up a little bit. And this gives us our 30 degrees reference angle. If I were to draw a line down right there and connect all of this, we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So 30 degrees is our first reference angle. And we learned way above, we did all of the work. We learned that for the 30-degree angle, my ordered pair, or the cosine value, I should say, the cosine value we found was square root 3 over 2, and the sine of 30 degrees was 1 over 2. And we did that with our circles. Next, I'm going to go up a little bit more. And I just went up 45 degrees. 45 is halfway in between 0 and 90 degrees. So I went up 45 degrees. 45 degrees is our next reference angle. And we found out that the sine and cosine of both of these was square root 2 over 2. So I'm going to go ahead and place root 2 over 2 comma root 2 over 2 right there for 45 degrees. Finally, our last reference angle that we did was 60 degrees. And for 60 degrees, we found out that the cosine of 60 degrees, if you scroll back through our notes, cosine of 60 degrees was 1/2, and sine of 60 degrees was square root 3 over 2. Now, we learned above that my ordered pair goes cosine theta comma sine theta. So using the cosine theta, sine theta, using this, I can figure out these 6 answers. So I would suggest taking a second to pause the video and write down these 6 problems. So we're about to go through them. Starting with the sine of 60 degrees. So I'm going to scroll on up. So for 60 degrees, we have this ordered pair of 1/2 comma square root 3 over 2. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Now, because it says the sine of 60 degrees, sine is the second one. So therefore, my answer is square root 3 over 2. Next one, number 2, it says cosine of 45 degrees. So if we scroll on up, 45 degrees, we have root 2 over 2 comma root 2 over 2. And then go ahead and write down my ordered pair. It goes cosine comma sine. So therefore, cosine, that's the first one. So my answer is square root 2 over 2. In number 3, we have cosine of 60 degrees. So I'm going to use my ordered pair that I used in number 1. So we have 1/2 comma square root 3 over 2. And cosine, c comma s, is equal to 1/2. In number 4, we have sine of 30 degrees. So we haven't had a 30 degree yet, so I'm going to scroll on up. 30 degrees, we have root 3 over 2 comma 1/2. So I'm going to go ahead and write down that ordered pair. Goes cosine comma sine. So therefore, my answer, because it's sine of 30 degrees, my answer is 1/2. Let's do it again, except for this time, it's cosine. Cosine comes first, so therefore my answer is square root 3 over 2. Last but not least, we have sine of 45 degrees. So I'm going to write down on my order pair like I did in number 2. So we have square root 2 over 2 comma square root 2 over 2. It goes cosine comma sine. So therefore, because it's sine of 45 degrees, it's the second one, square root 2 over 2. Okay, so these are something that you would be memorizing. And the easiest way to do that is by using your fingers. And I'm going to go ahead and put a video in this next, another video to show you exactly how to do it, except for it's not going to be my voice, it's going to be someone else. Just keep in mind that for these 30, 45, and 60 degree reference angles, all of them share a denominator of 2. It's just that the numerator changes. And there's a finger trick that you'll learn in order to memorize 30, 45, and 60 as our reference angles, but keep in mind you have the 4 axes too.